That's a nice way to start the video. So I'm here with Les. It's Sunday, the 26th of April. Everybody's been requesting more videos with Les, thinking that I've abandoned them.
Turning the radio down.
Okay, it's going to turn the radio down. We'll be right back. So we're going to break this project down into small segments or sections for Les to be able to move along with his restoration project while the frame waits to be sandblasted. And as we wait for parts for this project to move along, we'll move on to something that makes sense. And what makes sense to me is to start building up the chassis components by cleaning and refinishing them as Les has the time. So what I have on the table here right now is the suspension components from the 76 TR6. And what I have behind me are the suspension components from the 73 TR6. So what I figured Les could do is he could actually tear these components apart and start cleaning and painting these. Obviously he needs to order new bushings, etc. For these, and we'll look at what other parts he needs to order as we tear these apart. Who knows if the trunnions are still good. The thought process is that we're going to be able to use the best items or the best units from each car. So, you know, if the upper wishbones, for example, are better on the 76, we'll use those versus the 73. So we're going to take the best components and use those and make one good set for driver's side, one good set for passenger side. So that's the objective of this lesson. Okay? Make sense?
So David, I'm going to ask you a question. I can't remember what this thing is called.
Yeah, that's the lower spring pan.
So how come we only brought two of them and not
well,
four?
because you haven't dug through the bins over there and pulled out the other ones from the 76. Those are from the 73 that I managed to find in that bin over there. We need to go back through the bins for the 76 and pull those out. I just wanted to have them on the table because I'm trying to get the full suspension overview here. Obviously we don't have the springs, but I believe Les is probably going to be buying new springs. We've talked about you know, potentially getting the good parts lowered springs, the competition springs. So I haven't put the springs on the table because I'm not sure whether Les wants to clean those if he doesn't intend on using them. So those are not on the table currently.
So my question for you and all the people watching you is, guys, I'm trying to do this within, you know, a budget, but I'm not going to cheat or defer on things, say like some performance suspension stuff, after experiencing what I've seen on your car and how it seems to handle, Dave. So I'd like to, you know, obviously watch my money, but I'm gonna probably buy poly bushings and things that you would recommend that are fairly efficient and effective and will make a difference, even maybe like sway bars if need be.
So yeah, I'll share my experiences with Les, and things like bushings, for example. There's a number of different ways you can go. You can go with original rubber bushings, you can go with poly bushings, or you can go with nylotron bushings, for example. So lots of decisions on making, when making decisions going forward on what kind of ride or what kind of suspension feel you're looking for. Obviously the rubber is going to be softer than the poly, the nylotron is going to be harsher than the poly. So there's going to be a happy medium in there where he's going to try to achieve. So I'll try to just share my experiences with him, and it's going to depend on really on Les, on what kind of money he wants to spend on this project, whether he wants to upgrade or keep it as a fairly standard car. So that's going to have to be a decision process that he makes along the way. All right?
Yep.
So let's get into tearing these apart. I'll take some videos. So my intent here today is to show Les how to take one or two of these apart, or I'll take one apart. Les will take another one apart while I'm here, and then Les can take the other two components apart
But usually I can
on his own time.
Twice as much as you at the same time as you, Dave.
Right. So do you want to do it at the same time as me, Les, and maybe you can finish before me then? So we're obviously going to try to keep the components separate for now before we make a decision on what are the better parts to go with in the end. So Les is going to clean a spot over here, and when we break these down, we're going to lay them out on the table over here. And then at the end of the day, we're going to go through them and we're going to determine which parts we want to use going forward. Make sense? Okay, so we're going to start disassembling this suspension unit from the front driver's side of the 76 TR6. So I guess I can go through what I'm going to call the components. So upper fulcrum pin here, okay? This is the ball joint assembly. This is the upper control arm. I think it's called the wishbone, upper wishbone in the actual Triumph manuals. So upper wishbone, ball joint as I mentioned. This is the vertical link that I've got my fingers on here. This is the caliper mounting bracket at the front. This is the tie rod, I think it's called a steering arm or tie rod end, tie rod control end. I've seen it called a number of different things. These are the lower control arms. I call these the lower control arm frame attachment points, but I think these are called, in the Triumph manual, these are called lower fulcrum joints. So those are really the components. So they're trunnion down the bottom here that we've seen before. This is quite nice when it's polished up usually. And in the back here we have a steering stop, which is just in here. So those are really the components of the suspension. And we'll start to take it apart by taking the upper control arms, or the wishbones, off the ball joint. So we're going to undo this nut down the bottom of the ball joint. It's a 3/4 inch nut on this one. And we've got our separating tool here standing by. So we'll go ahead and we'll undo that nut and we'll remove that ball joint so we can remove this upper wishbone assembly completely from the vertical link. Alright, we're going to resort to using the pickle fork on this joint because this one will not work because we can't get the base of this underneath the bottom of the ball joint. It's just a little bit too wide for this tool. I could have probably used this Pitman arm tool. If I can't get it off with a pickle fork, I'm going to use a Pitman arm tool. But Les is going to bang the heck out of that. He likes doing that. And hopefully this will separate okay. We'll come back.
Rules on the sheet saying you couldn't turn it, so you have more surface cover when you hit the hammer there.
Les is telling me a teddy bear story.
Oh, one at the X.
He won at the exhibition. Instead of hammering this nail this way, he decided he'd hammer the nail this way, and he won a teddy bear.
3 swipes.
3 swipes. Nice story. Anyway, okay, the upper wishbone is off. The pickle fork worked fine. Yep. So what we'll do now is we'll take apart the let's take apart the upper wishbone here, Les. Okay. So we just removed the cotter pins from the castle nuts on the fulcrum pin, and just about to loosen these nuts off. It's a little bit easier, I think, to do it before you release the ball joint. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that now. We can actually hold this piece down.
Too small.
Okay, we've got the 2 castle nuts off the fulcrum pin. We had to take it to a vise in order to do that. As the fulcrum pin will spin as you try to loosen those off. So now what we're going to do to remove the fulcrum pin, we're going to actually remove the ball joint. So there's 2 bolts on the ball joint. You'll notice that the bolts, one goes one way, one goes the other way. So we'll get the 9/16 wrench out and we'll undo those 2 bolts and release that ball joint from here. Okay, so here is the upper fulcrum pin and the upper wishbone components separated. As I'd mentioned, these bushings are probably the worst I've ever seen in my life. So I don't know if they've even ever been done on this car. Hard to say. Anyway, so there's those components. We'll keep the hardware together as well. So we'll move on to the rest of the suspension bits, which are over here. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the caliper mounting plate. So on here there are lock tabs. So the first thing we need to do is bend the locks down so we can get a socket on there to release these bolts. Once we do that, the steering arm will come off the back, and the caliper mounting bracket will be able to come off the front. So we'll do that now and we'll bring you back. Okay, there's 2 bolts on the back of this caliper mounting that hold the steering arm on. So remove those. Just be aware there's a spacer in here as well that you need to be aware of when you remove these, so don't lose your spacer. Then there are 2 other bolts that hold the caliper on that are actually threaded right into the caliper backing plate. Alright, the caliper mounting bracket is off. Here's the hardware for that. There's the 2 safety clips. Here are the 2 bolts, and as mentioned here are the spacers for the steering arm. So those are all good to go. We'll put those aside with the rest of the suspension components, and we'll come back to taking the rest of this apart. So the next thing we're going to do to be able to remove the vertical link from the trunnion is we're going to remove this little steering stop here at the back. So we'll just get, I think it's a 1/2 inch wrench. I'll just check that in a minute, but we're just going to remove that, and that'll allow us to screw this vertical link out of the trunnion. Alright, now we've got the steering stop removed. We're going to spin this vertical link out to go the right way. So these are handed. So we'll just spin this all the way out of the trunnion carefully. Hopefully don't drop it. Okay, there we go. On the bottom here is a grease seal. They call it a grease seal, and there's lots of discussion about whether they should be filled with grease or with gear oil, and my thoughts are that they should be filled with gear oil. I think that the grease actually will collect grit and dirt and will wear these trunnions out pretty quickly, so I use gear oil. Okay, so the only thing left to do now on the lower control arms are to remove the lower fulcrum brackets, so we'll do that. We may need a vise to stick this in to get those off, and we need to remove this lower this trunnion from the front. Now hopefully I've read some horror stories about these bolts being seized in here, so hopefully that's not going to be the case with us. It does have a cotter pin and a castle nut to remove on this side, so we'll go ahead and remove that, and we'll see if we can slide that bolt out and remove that trunnion. Okay, so we've separated the lower control arms without any issues. Here's a little thrust washers that go on the inside here. Here are the water seals, I think they call them, or dust seals or grease seals. I can't remember what they're called. Should be a nylon piece in there as well. So anyway, so we've got that separated. The only thing we got left to do is to take off the lower fulcrum brackets. So we'll probably take these over to a vise and get those off.
Wow. Back and forth maybe.
So these brackets do not want to come out, so we've got the big hammer out, put the nut on the end, we've just banged it through on a bit of a board to space this up. Now we're just getting a punch pin to finish the job, so I'll go ahead and do that now. Alright guys, here's the first set completely broken down now. So the lower control arms, the vertical link with the spindle. The spindle we're not going to remove, we're just going to inspect. The spindle generally has to be pressed in and out, so we're just going to leave that. Here are some of the seals, thrust washers for the control arms. There's the trunnion. Here's the through bolt for the trunnion. Here are the bolts for the lower control arms. One of them we got out no problem. One of them was seized in pretty good. So
what's the trunnion made of, Dave?
Brass.
Brass?
Yeah. Alright, so we're going to move on to the next one. Les is going to take that one apart with my guidance, and we'll take a little video along the way. Okay, so we're starting the passenger side suspension tear down, and Les is the man on this one. So he's pretty confident he's got the first step down. He's got a little pressure though. He's got the ladies watching him here.
What ladies?
On the wall. Oh, see, they're all looking at you over there?
Oh yeah, they are.
So you better be good. Be on your best behavior.
I've already had most of them.
So what are you going to do first?
I'm going to take this apart.
So remove the ball joint.
Yep.
Alright, get the pickle fork. Okay, Les's favorite thing to do in the world.
Get covered in shit.
Hey, no swearing on the
channel.
channel.
Yeah, your mom's watching.
That's right.
Sorry.
How long is that bolt?
5 inches. Probably a couple of inches.
So you'd think it was like 2 feet?
Well, David, I don't want to screw up your threads.
Not my threads, are yours.
They're hardened bolts. Look, not Chinese stuff.
Less.
Huh. Huh. Want this?
Okay, what's next?
I gotta get this off.
Get what off?
This.
No, what are we going to do first?
Oh, move this aside. Then
What do we do after that?
Undo these.
No, we don't.
Take this off.
No, we don't.
What then? I'm guessing now.
Yes, you are. Remember we moved these first?
Oh, and then this pops off later.
Yes. So we'll take off the castle nuts off the fulcrum pin.
Grease it.
Too big a wrench. Too big a wrench. Not the right wrench, Les.
That's what it was.
Breaker bar.
Going the right way, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
And do the other one. Break the other one. And then we can take it to the bench.
Backwards, right? Done.
Okay.
Those two things, they're out.
Yep, so ball joint comes off next. So 9/16 wrench right there, Les.
It was weird, eh? It came off like it was breaking.
Other side.
Okay, take this out, pull this out.
Take the tube.
It came
Jesus,
out.
Les.
Rawr.
Yeah, exactly. So let's finish this job. Take the two bolts out.
Mm-hmm.
Take the two bolts out of here.
Yeah. Put the nuts on.
Yep.
Keep them together.
You're still not done with that.
I'm gonna pull all this off.
You're going to pull the bushing out.
And slave it, but it's all rotted.
Probably only get one side out. Might be able to get both out. Okay.
That's just the sleeve.
Yep.
So it feels a bit rugged.
You'd be a bit rugged if you were in there for 50 years too, Les.
Well, my teeth, I mean 50 years. You want these for your TR6, Dave?
No.
TR3? 250 maybe?
Don't worry about it.
I've got it. Sometimes it takes a little bit of, you know, massage therapy.
What are you going to do with the castle nuts?
I'm going to eat them.
And the washers? And the washers?
They go back together.
And the washers?
This one? Nope. Those guys. Look how worn it is. They're actually in good shape. Like you said, well, that's because we put the cotter pin in last. When the cotter pin's in there, it's better for them. They don't move around and blah blah blah. Put the fucking other castle on.
Hey, no swearing.
So it's stuck in there. Hiding it on me, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hiding it in plain sight.
Probably because you lost one for your 250 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What's going on with that bolt there?
Those?
No, what's going on with this?
I'll come out of there and go into my bag with all my goodies.
And what are you going to do with
This
that?
one.
What are you going
This
to do with
one.
those?
I can put them back in.
You put the nuts back on those.
Yeah. But I can put them back on there. Keep them together.
You need to clean these less. All right, we'll move on to the other lower part. All right, so the lower part of the suspension we're going to look at now. What's our first job to do on this one, Les?
Well, it doesn't really matter. I can take these off first.
Let's
but
do it.
Normally you take this off.
Okay, let's do that then. So what do you do first?
Take these clips.
Right.
Straighten out the little clip
Perfect.
edge.
Perfect.
And then you take the bolts out.
Yeah. So let's concentrate on taking the safeties off first. So we'll pound those flat with a screwdriver, and then we'll remove those top 2 bolts, which will remove the steering arm. And remember, it's got the spacers, right? Okay.
Take them out.
Okay. Move your steering arm over somewhere out of the way. They're not on it.
Ain't coming out, sweet pea.
Try the other one.
Not on the bottom of it?
No. So Les is now removing the
It's
steering stop
because
block.
it's brass,
Yeah.
Dave?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep.
They don't
It's not
want it
real, it's
over.
not real tight.
Yeah. They don't want to over torque it. And it also has a bushing in it.
No.
Or spacer.
No.
Correct?
Lock washer. All right. So Les is now removing the vertical link from the trunnion.
Threaded, isn't it?
It's threaded.
Yeah, you showed me. Because they wear out. Well, there's a bit of play in that.
Are you actually holding the trunnion itself, or is the friggin' suspension rocking?
No. Look. Go ahead. Do it yourself. Test me out.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of play there. But you want to screw it down though, right?
Yeah, but...
So
Okay.
there's no play when you screw it down.
Yeah, a little bit.
You're rocking the whole suspension.
No, it's moving.
Okay, well, we'll take it apart and we'll...
Seriously, I'm not being a dick. I'm trying to show you.
Okay.
Like,
Going the wrong way. You're turning the wrong way.
no, I'm just showing you there is a bit of play.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, we can look at it
Also,
again.
my
We're going to
elbow.
look at all the components once we take them all apart, and we'll decide which ones are the best.
Do you keep these?
The oil seal that we're going to, our grease seal, that we'll replace, but keep them for now. Just as a reminder that it's there, Les. When you need to reassemble it, you don't forget to put it on. Because if you forget to put that on, and you have to take the whole suspension apart because you forgot to put that, you're going to be upset with yourself. Okay, what's next?
This.
Yep.
And then,
So-
then those individually.
Yep, so let's go ahead and do that then. Okay, Les is just removing those lower fulcrum brackets.
Yeah, but I didn't need the fork like you did.
I don't even know what you're talking about. We didn't even use the fork.
I know, I'm only kidding.
Okay, so lower control arms are now disassembled. So I'm going to have to show Les how to take the bushings out of here because he thinks he can get it out with a pair of needle nose. But apparently he's going to learn the hard way. Because I've told him already that the best way to do it is a piece of threaded rod, but he's just going to go ahead and try to do it his own way. Should we watch him struggle here? I can't watch. I can't watch this. I have to turn this off. Oh my God.
Hey, what do you think, David?
Would you like to know the proper way to do it?
We're on Gilligan's Island. It's
Yeah,
just
and
you
you're
me.
marking up the
Okay, I give up.
okay. So we'll show Les how to properly remove bushings and install bushings at some point using a threaded rod or a vise. Okay? So we're going to put all those parts aside. We've got all the bags labeled. We're going to label up these parts, bag them up. And then Les is going to have fun. He's going to have more practice because he has the 73 ones to take apart and bag all those parts. Right?
Yeah.
You're going to be an expert, Les.
We're going on a road trip.
You're going to be doing my 250 for me.
I will.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, so when in this video, we'll, like I said, bag this stuff up, and then we're going to go on a little bit of a road trip, I think, this afternoon, and see if we can find a sandblaster.
Sandblaster guy.
Les keeps getting a little closer to me. I'm getting a little worried. All right, bag that stuff up.
Miserable.
See you later.
Night night.